10 years ago, I did not have that patience or that grace, and I would have been much angrier and much more
Mm,
frustrated, and I would have said a lot more things.
sure.
So it's nice to have growth in that way.
I think I understand that too of like I feel like now with more years under my belt, I just understand like what's worth it or not. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, because I used to be a really big stickler about things. And because I'm very much about the principle of it all and blah blah blah. But
Hmm.
then like over time you realize that it doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day, just as long as like, you make it smooth and, a pleasant experience. I think that's the big priority for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the work
Yeah.
shows for itself. The work shows
Yes.
for itself. So on people, on the production, and on you. And like, there's only so much that you can do in the room, particularly if you're just the actor. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah.
As much as they may have faults or problems, or like maybe they aren't supposed to be in this room, they are, and they're doing the best
Hmm.
they can. And so having as much grace as possible up to the point where they hurt somebody is
Yeah.
like that's that's a harder thing to do, I think. But I think it's an
Mm,
important thing to do. Because I was in all of those places. I've been
mm,
problematic in rooms. I've been
mm,
a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. I've been a person who
hmm.
doesn't know how to control their emotions. I've been a person who needed to feel validated.
Mm.
I've been a person with severe imposter syndrome. Not that I don't have it, but that it like became a problem in the room. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
So it's like, I look at people in rooms that I work with and I see those things, and it's like I only recognize them because I've had them. And so like not having grace for that means that I'm repeating a situation that I didn't enjoy, when I was in a rehearsal room before that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Very big learning curves, absolutely. And it's like it requires so much humility.
yeah, yeah. And I think that when I was younger, I was so obsessed with being great,
Mm.
like this idea of being great, and this kind of like obsession with the work and the preparation and the craft and like dedicating everything to it, and because it gave me an excuse to be a workaholic,
Yeah.
because I didn't have anything on the outside that was more important than that. And now, a
Mm.
decade later, with a wife and a child and a house and,
Hmm.
and a life, kind of, the priority shift, and like the
Absolutely.
ability to see, not only the ability to see like the flaws in my belief system at the time, but also to see why it was a defense mechanism in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
And to realize, like, with more experience now, that like a lot of the great work you see, yes, there's craft and there's hard work, but a lot of it comes from ease, and
Hmm.
that's not overworking. So I recognize that I can do better work now in a week than I did in a month back then. And
Right.
part of it's experience, but part of it is like I know who I am more than I did, and I let things be as opposed to try to make them happen or
Trying
overwork a
so
moment.
hard. Yeah. I remember a professor would tell me like, let the don't try to inspire others, let the work inspire you. And so
Mm.
um, this like shift in the lens of like trying to not focus so much on like being so great or like having your work be, the greatest thing in the world. And just shifting where that focus was is more internal and on your like personal journey to it. Just relieved a lot of the stressors and the pressures. And like you said, requires a lot less work sometimes.
Yeah, I had an undergrad professor who used to, she, obviously it hurt me because I still remember it. And this was like 2008 or something like that. I was doing a scene in class and I must have done something, or like argued with her on a note, or, like, why isn't this, what am I supposed to
Mm,
do or something? And she went, you want this to be difficult. It's like you want it to be
damn.
hard work. Sometimes it just is what it is. Sometimes it's easy. Matter of fact, when it feels easy, a lot of the times is the best. You're doing the best work because you're getting out of the way. As
They say
opposed to
that about
like,
auditions all the time. It's like the ones that you don't care about are the ones that you tend to go forward with because you have no pressures. You don't care. Yeah.
yeah, you're not showing something. You're not trying. You just are. And that's what we're looking for. when we
Hmm.
were looking for truth on stage. And I think it's also like a selfish idea to be like, if it doesn't feel difficult, if it's not hard work, then it's not good. But it's
Right.
like the hard work is in rehearsal. Like
Hmm.
the performance should be really easy. That's the whole point, is like to get to a level where it's effortless. Like the best perform like the best. So I just went and saw Oedipus in New York before it closed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember when the EPA went out and like immediately because I was trying to get online for that, immediately filled up. And I was like, thanks.
Dude,
But how was it?
it was incredible. It was the
Yeah.
second best piece of theater I've seen next to Jim DeVita's Iliad. Shout out to Jim
Because,
DeVita.
dang, because they moved that from the West End.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manville, give Manville the Tony. Give
Yeah.
her all
Okay.
the Tonys.
But how was Mark?
He was incredible. And me and Justin talked to Justin Anderson and I
Hmm.
talked about this because he saw it too right before it. He got like some last minute tickets. There was absolutely no hubris in the show. It was seamless and it was effortless, and nobody had, well, I say nobody. Most everybody on stage had nothing to prove. And so like I saw Bug as well
Mm.
when I was there. And Bug, do you know anything about Bug, the
Tracy
play?
Letts, right?
Yeah.
And then who's the lead in this production?
Carrie Coon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, there was good actors, right? Carrie is a good
Hmm.
actor, but there's so much there's extremes in that. It's a play of extremes, right? There's a bunch
Hmm.
of nudity. There's a bunch of kind of wild shifts. There's searching for bugs, and there's paranoia, and then it gets more dramatic and more intense. And then in the end, there's like this huge blow up moment. Carrie has this huge monologue,
Hmm.
and it ends in this like Lady M scream. And she
Hmm.
did it wonderfully. But it was very obviously written into the play that this is the moment where the actor gets to shine. And when I was watching it, I was cognizant of, oh, this is the moment of the performance where this is why we cast her. Like we cast her so
Hmm.
she got to do this. But watching Oedipus, there was also a very big monologue that Manville has.
Hmm.
Not once was I aware of any acting choices she made, and not once was I
Amazing.
aware of any of the performance because it happened so naturally, but also it wasn't orchestrated in a way that was showing off her ability.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
about getting to the next thing. So that we were a minute and a half into the speech before we went, she's been talking for a minute and a half. You
And
know what I
it's interesting
mean?
when you dissect that for me because I don't know sometimes like where is it coming from? Is it the directing? Is it the writing? Is it the performance? And sometimes it really is just a harmonious blend.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
And it probably is all of those things working together at once. You need
Yep.
a director and a set of performers who are not out to prove something. Because even if the actor isn't, the directors might set you up to be like, and there are certain plays I think that ask for it, but unless you do it in a way that doesn't make me aware of it, I don't necessarily know that it's deserved every time because it makes me aware that I'm watching a show versus watching this person tell this story. And she's being affected in all the ways she needs to be affected because it was a very like so the thing they did in this show as far as the backstory to her relationship with Laius,
Hmm.
the previous king, right, is that
Hmm.
he got her pregnant when she was like 13. Like
Okay.
this is the idea. And
Okay.
so like the story she tells him is her basically being like he liked little girls. He was
Mm,
like not a
mm,
he was like halfway to a pedophile basically.
mm,
And like this is the reason nobody cared. Like when he died, they just let it. They were like, he died in a car wreck in this version.
mm,
Oedipus got in
hmm.
a wreck. When he
Hmm.
was like 18, he was speeding down the street. The reason that nobody investigated it was because he was on his way to see a little, like they let it lie. And
Mm,
she has to reveal all this to Oedipus in this long speech of like, this is why nobody cared and we didn't investigate. And this is why I didn't love him. And this is why I stayed in the marriage because I was so young. And by the time I realized, and like I had this baby and they took my baby. And then she tells the story about them taking the baby. And all this happens in one go. And so
mm,
there's so many layers of history and connection that she's very obviously getting to, but all of it, it was consistently about getting through the emotional waves to
hmm.
tell the story, to communicate this message to this person, which
Hmm.
means she's never trying to reach a certain peak and she's never trying to prove any amount of skill. There's things she's undercutting left and right. And it made the momentum continue and it made us pay very close attention to the story and it made us not we didn't stop to respond to that story until the story was over, as opposed to kind of like being aware of what was happening in the moment.
I think that's the
Um,
beauty and the hardest part about monologues, right? Is because they have to be so earned, right?
yes.
Those moments have to be so earned, and there's a reason why they continue talking. There's a reason why no one
Yeah.
comes in to create it as a dialogue. So that momentum you have to keep forward is very much a challenge. This is coming from someone who hates doing monologues for like audition's sake, but
Yeah.
like I understand the device and I understand like the complexities of that in a story itself. But yeah, it's really impressive. Sounds like they executed it very well.
They did, and they worked together so well. And
Yeah.
everything was just rolling, like nothing was precious. Um, which they trusted the audience to be intelligent. You know,
Thank God. I need more of that, please.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's like British theater versus American theater sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could tell the American on the stage, and it's not like a good or a bad thing. It's a sensibility thing. But we love to yell, and I'm 100% at fault of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like underplay a lot of those things.
Well, that's also at fault to our culture, right? So
Yeah,
it's not just our
100%.
skill set and like our foundational like techniques that we learn as Americans, I feel,
Yeah.
but we don't have this plethora or this toolbox that's as expanded, I feel, because like musically, the way that the English also
Hmm.
speak, it's just a lot more of a spectrum there to play with. So like they don't
Hmm.
just deal with like the volume.
It's like text versus
Mm.
method, where like a lot of the American studying, we look up to like Marlon Brando, of these
Mm.
people where it was an emotional guttural movement.
Interesting. Because they know, I feel like the English know how to chew their words. Like they
They do.
really like take every single syllable, every single like consonant to to their power, which is really impressive. And we kind of like, I feel like as American actors, I feel like we skip on that. We sleep on it a lot more. But I see where that also balances that shift of like maybe they just don't know the like presence of power of like that emotional life on stage or like yeah. It,
Maybe, it's also like a big generalization, but that's what I saw in this play,
but I could see that that could take me out of it too.
and it makes sense though if you look at the cultural I guess the average of it or the things that our sensibilities lead us into is like, yeah, America, I would be like, just hit me in the
We're
show.
violent.
Yeah, we're violent, dude. We're known across the world to be violent. And so I guess it makes sense. But I don't think that we focus on poetry in our training so much,
No.
which is language, right? And I think that like I was talking to Jeff about Play That Goes Wrong because he saw it at the West End as well,
Oh, he
and he saw
did?
yeah, and he saw it on Broadway too. And I was
Mm.
like, which one did you like more? And he went Broadway, and I was like, why? And he was like, because the West End, there was just more energy, and the West End, it's like they're British, and I was like, yeah, and it's not the same comedy. Like British comedy is quite reserved.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. It was crazy, crazy
That's so
good.
cool. That's so cool you were able to catch it.
Yeah.
Uh,
They had a stopwatch on stage or a countdown on stage
oh,
that was counting down to the time of the votes being in, like the announcement of the election.
yeah.
And so it was counting down the whole show because there was no intermission. And
Nice. Okay.
that tension, yeah, there of like we know when that thing goes off, they're gonna find out. Like we know that they're timing this together because you know the story of Oedipus. And so it was just
Yeah.
really well done. And then they moved the pace really quickly all the way to the end of the show, and then that timer stopped, and he found out, and then there was silence for a good like 3 minutes. Like they let it. It was just these two standing on stage, like not knowing what to do next. And then like all that happened was like their aides like brought in clothes for them to change into because they were about to go out and like announce the election, right?
Hmm.
And it was just like maybe it wasn't 3 minutes, maybe it was like a minute and a half, but it was a
But it
long
felt like a
time of
nice
silence.
pause. Yeah.
But it was so earned, and the whole audience was silent, like silent, waiting
Oh,
for what was going to happen next. It was incredible.
everyone was engaged. I love that.
And one more thing I'll tell you about it before we move on. Because the thing that affected me the most was he did a flashback at the end because it very much turned into like a story about their marriage and
Oh, okay.
how wonderful of a marriage they had. And so like, she kills herself and then he goes to stab his eye out with her heel and the curtain comes
Uh-huh.
down.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, okay. And then the curtain goes back up and he's leading her in blindfolded, hilarious, to show her the room we've been in the whole time, which is a room they rented during the campaign. And it's him showing her the room that he's about to rent, going, "Hey, look at this. I want to rent this room, and we can
Oh.
run the election in it. And I know that it's kind of small, but this is really what I feel like is, gonna be our spot." And she goes, "I love it." And he goes, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then he goes to run into her arms to hug her, and the lights go out. And I started weeping. I was like,
Ah!
"Oh it was something about the turn out of that, so unexpected and so heartfelt
So they
and so
ended that.
simple."
Huh.
They ended with a flashback, and it was such a smart thing to do, especially for the people who knew the story.
Huh. Interesting. Because
Just
like
that button.
I love like in films you see this a lot, right? With the bookends, right?
Hmm.
What's the first shot versus the very last shot? So for them to make that flashback be their like button at the end,
It was beautiful, and
so innovative.
it was just a yeah, yeah, and it was just a way to like.
Because usually that's in the middle, I feel, or like
Mhm.
you start with that. But for that choice to be what you end with, especially coming from the very end, that's such a stark comparison that you can't help but like, yeah,
Well, I think that's why it was so effective because you get to the murder in the blind, and you cannot not think of Oedipus.
gosh,
Like
it's
you kind
like
of
how,
almost step out of it to go like, yeah, okay, this is where he stabs himself, right?
mhm.
So to go back to that flashback is like, hey, by the way, they're humans. They're humans in this situation. It wasn't just like an ancient Greek story, and it grabs your heart. And it was many people were crying, and I was like, we were not crying when that curtain came down. It was the
Yeah,
flashback. Somehow you knew that this was an emotional shift that works really well with this arrangement.
like
So
the
kudos to
corruption from how
you.
they started to all the way to the end. And
Yeah.
also it reminds me and it parallels to like how one sees their life flash behind their eyes before they, yeah. So that also.
Yeah, man. It was,
Oh,
oh
that's very
man,
strong. Oh,
it
piercing.
was, oh, it was so good. It made me want, I walked out like, I need to adapt Antigone.
Oh God.
I'm obsessed with this now. Like, I need to,
Find
oh
the
God.
comedy in it. You know,
Oh
speaking of
God.
finding the comedy or just finding like the lightness in work, right? That we tend to treat as like tragedies all the time, such as like Chekhov, right?
Mhm.
Like it just made me think of like Mark Rylance, right? So
Yeah.
I just feel like his approach in things always reminds me about how we don't have to apply this weight all the time. And like he finds the little moments of joy when like you wouldn't read it that way off the page. But God, it's just so much more refreshing to be able to experience that. And like, you know, the typical choices are not made through that.
Have you seen him
Um,
on stage before?
not, I've just watched like YouTube videos, right?
Yeah.
But never like in person. God, how amazing that would be.
His
Um,
Richard III, I was
that's
like,
exact, yeah. Like when
what
they're
are you
about to,
doing?
yeah. And then like, but that makes his fall, his breakdown, right? Just so much more devastating. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's no, it's super interesting. And his thing with
Because
his Richard,
everyone's like taken aback. They're like, he's not taking this seriously. Like, you know, we're about to die. And he's like, we're fine. He's not fine. Yeah, it's pretty brilliant.
wait, are you talking about Richard II or Richard III?
Or maybe I'm talking about two. I don't know. I'm sorry.
That's the speech he does in the chair while he's cutting the food.
No, this is the one where he's like barricaded with everybody. Is that not the third? Don't quote me on this. I don't know my Shakespeare that well. Sorry.
I think it's probably two.
Okay.
And Richard II has more clips on YouTube than Richard III because it
Then
like was
yes.
released on the was it the
Somebody.
Globe?
Yeah, yeah.
It was Richard II.
Okay.
And yes, he finds comedy in that damn play that nobody. I remember
Which
when
you
he did the
never would have thought about. Yeah.
no, and it feels so melodramatic, like especially like the speech where for goodness sake, let
Hmm.
us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. He says that and makes everybody
Yeah.
laugh, and I was like, oh shit, like
And everyone's like, is this how you're
we're
reacting
gonna
right
sit
now?
down,
Okay.
king. Yeah, it's very human. Um, yeah, he's somebody. I watched Jerusalem at the New York Public Library the first time I visited New York.
Okay. I
Um,
don't know much about that.
Jerusalem was a role he originated, a play. He won the Tony for it.
Mm.
And it was like um, this homeless guy living in a trailer in the woods. selling drugs and kids came out and partied. It was just like he was on public land and the whole story is about like um the government coming in and trying to get him out at like they're gonna plow down the forest and they're gonna get it and he won't leave
Uh-huh.
and so he's like this folk hero legend and he's like and Mark Rylance like transformed for it like he got big and he had this hurt like broken leg he limped on and he had this like really deep Cockney dialect
Oh,
and apparently he was just a force of nature.
oh my gosh, very cool.
Yeah, and they
Very
like built it in rehearsal like it was a new play. And I heard about it when I was in college and when I first went to New York, I was like, I went to the New York Public. I was like, I gotta see this. I have 2 hours. I'm gonna go to the public library and watch it. And it was pretty incredible. He's just one of those like spirits where it's
hmm
like, I don't know if you're nuts or you're just beyond. Like I don't, or maybe both. That's what both means. You know what I mean? Like you're in touch with something that's a little bit different.
I think you have to be a little bit off kilter to be able to understand the magic that you have to tap into sometimes.
He does feel like magic. He
Hmm
feels a bit like some kind of fairy. You know what I mean? Like just slightly out. Like if he had magical powers, I wouldn't be that surprised. You know what I mean?
They're not
There's,
entirely human, which is
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
It's just slightly outside of our realm of
It's
understanding.
like that third eye that's opened, right? Yeah. There's just the sense that you have to have awaken in you, I feel. And like I feel very fortunate to be able to do what we do, right? For like
Yeah.
a living. And I think like like I call I think I've told you this, but I call people that have no sort of artistic like avenue, whether it's professionally or just for a hobby, I call them muggles, right? Because I feel like they don't have a touch of
Yeah.
magic, which I feel like is how you understand life better. I think that the way that you move in this world, you need a little bit of that somehow. And there's some people that really don't have that. And I feel so confused by how black and white they must view the world. And that sounds a little pretentious, but like, I don't know. Do you ever just like meet someone and then you can tell like they just are so driven by this very secular thing that
Hmm.
I don't know, they find
What
no joy in the magic of life, whether it's through some sort of art venue, whether it's through love, whether I don't know. It's just, ugh,
what do you think that comes from?
where do I think that comes from?
Why do you think those people are born that way or like
Well, I think it's because we're so conditioned on this idea to survive, right? In a very capitalist world, particularly too. Um, and you get your NPCers out there, which I didn't know was like more of a thing than it really is. Yeah, just I remember meeting some people and like they really are just drawn to money. They're
mm,
really drawn to money. They're really drawn to like the power and security of money. They're drawn to making sure that they're never in that desperate state again. And
that's
it
true.
sucks. And we all freaking deal with it. I mean,
Hmm.
artists are the worst sometimes, It's soul-sucking things. But like if you don't find that one outlet, again, whether it's like just a hobby or just like professionally even, which is such a privilege, right? But God, you really just become this like hollow thing to me. I don't, yeah, yeah.
Thing to me.
Like this empty cocoon. I really feel like there's no
Magic.
magic. They're a
Yeah.
muggle. Yeah.
I often feel like they had something and they just didn't. What do you think about the phrase? Were you ever told if you can do anything else, if
Yes.
you, what do you, so for everybody, I was told this in theater. I think a lot of people were told this in
In
training.
school, yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you can, somebody says, if you can do anything else, go do that. Only do this if this is the only thing that you're good at or that you can do. How do
And
you
if
feel
you
about
can
that phrase?
imagine yourself doing anything else and being just as happy, do that instead. Yeah, my high school teacher told me that.
Fuck.
And I, uh, yeah, I had a really interesting time in high school.
Ooh,
Uh, but I feel like my journey in what I do has been kind of like the underdog. If you hear my dog barking like
really?
crazy, it's because my so I have a package being delivered. So if you hear a lot of barking, just be details. Okay. Yeah. But I was told that in high school and I tested it. I actually tested it. There was like, you pick your elective classes, and there was one semester where I did not pick a theater class, and I was miserable. And I remember just kind of being like on the sidelines, and they were doing their like spring musical, which I didn't do. I don't do musicals. I'm not a singer or anything, but I just had to attend it like a patron instead of like a stagehand or
The
instead
way
of
you
like,
said patron. A patron? A patron?
but like, the fact that I
Patron.
wasn't
Blech.
involved, I wasn't in the
Yeah,
class, I couldn't
absolutely.
even be backstage in any sort of way. Like, God, it crippled me. And like I had the most intense FOMO ever. And then I realized, I was like, no, I really don't think that I can imagine myself doing anything else and being just as happy. Um, so yeah, so I tested that out.
I want to
Um,
get back to underdog because that surprises me. Um,
oh,
but first, how do you feel about that phrase being told to people?
I mean, I get it. I get that it's a warning. I get that it kind of weeds folks out to really understand, like, and have them think critically of like, what do they want to pursue in life?
Hmm.
And I think that's such a hard question to pose on someone so young.
Hmm.
And it doesn't allow people to also acknowledge that that can change at any point, and that's okay. I think because like a lot of folks that do start off in like acting or like, the performing arts in any sort of way, it does not, it typically does not become a lucrative like job. It's not something that's easy to sustain.
Hmm.
They don't talk about the practicality of like you'll probably have to work another job or multiple jobs in order to be able to be available for these sort of things. And that is a skill set that is overlooked, not talked about. But it's
Hmm.
possible. It's possible. And so, because of that, I think people that warn people of that either have gone through it themselves, or are not fulfilled in a certain way, or they're genuinely just trying to be like, hey, don't go for the fame.
Yeah.
It's not enough sometimes. It's really not enough.
So you're saying that being able to juggle multiple streams of income, innovate, be able to kind of surf that lifestyle without kind of like falling apart or, losing your mind is a skill set that you need to have that is often not talked about when talking about living this lifestyle or creating this career.
I think it's inevitable. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think there are definitely
But I think
ways
that's really
around it.
smart. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase that way.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like I've heard like I've talked about it too of like you got to be able to have multiple income streams. You got to be able to like, deal with feast and famine, but I've never heard anybody say like the ability to be able to like be happy or be functional in that lifestyle, which is slightly chaotic, is a
Mhm.
skill set in itself. And I was like, you're
Oh,
right. That is not a
absolutely.
class that we don't take. There's no classes of like how to deal with chaos, how to juggle all these things at once.
How to not burn out, right? Which we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier. I think that
Yeah.
you get lost in the sauce, is what I like to call it. And so,
Hmm.
like, you end up taking that promotion or you end up focusing on that side job. And then you get lost in the fact that, no, actually, what I really want to do is this. And I think some people don't have that clarity. So they're not able to figure that out. Or maybe they found out that, yeah, I'm more comfortable in what I am advancing in more. And there's a lot of patience that's required sometimes in this kind of work. And our
Hmm.
ideas of success are challenged, right? Is it successful if you work all the time, or is it successful if you really are able to like grow in your skill set anytime that you do get a chance to perform?
Hmm.
Quality versus quantity, right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think we are not prepared to understand that these opportunities are not going to fall into your lap. And I saw that a lot in academia because, of course, like we're all in a department. We're gonna be doing 3 to 4 to 5, productions every semester. And,
Hmm.
we're all gonna be required to audition. We all have that call board that we're all gonna go to. And then when you get to real life, it's like, oh, no one's scheduling me to do this. No, because you got to go find it. And then while
Yeah.
you go find that, you got to make sure you can pay rent
Mhm.
and you can afford groceries. That it's a management skill. It's a management skill, just like how you're holding your business of like, all of your materials and how do you pitch yourself,
Hmm.
all of those things. I think that we just don't really teach our students enough, which you kind of just have to learn as you do it.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be hard to like, I mean, honestly, going to college and juggling all of your classes is the first slice of it that you get. And
Mm-hmm.
we rarely do that well because we're like, we're in college. But I do think that there's something that a lot of people who take my intensive talk to me about, at
Mm-hmm.
least the ones who, because a lot of the times somebody will graduate from like a BFA program and then they'll like work or like audition for like a couple years and then I'll end up working with them in my intensive because that's the point where they're like,
Mm,
I took for granted the amount of work I got to do.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like looking for a class is a way for me, or like like a long-term training thing is like a way for me to eat again. Because like
yep.
when you're acting, it's exhausting and it's all the time. And you always, it's hard not to take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second you're not doing it, you're like, oh my God, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
In the same way that like, I just closed Play That Goes Wrong, and I'm like, I like that show. I like those people. Thank God it's closed. I needed it to be closed. I
Mm-hmm.
I took on too much in the spring. But I don't have another gig until October. So come August, I'm gonna be like, I need to get on stage,
I
and I'm gonna miss
know.
this time, right? And so like that kind of the ability to like not take it for granted or like be gratitude in the moment is important for later. But I think it's something that like because you're in school and you've never been outside of school, you don't really understand because you've only known, oh yeah, there's auditions and they're making me do this and I'm going to have this show and there's inevitably something coming down the line. If it's not a show, it's classwork. And then if I go to grad school, it's like every day, all day. And then the
In real life, it's not like that. Academia is so much more different. And I really had to understand that
yeah.
academia is not going to reflect my real world experience.
No, and it's just you.
Yeah.
Like if you want to work stuff, it's just you in your room.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to pay money to go to class, which means you're now spending money that you're working on. You're like, do I have enough to be able to juggle that?
And also, like, meeting people, like, I'm sure you've been told this too, but like, my professors were very adamant about saying, like, find a life outside of this, find a
Yeah.
life outside of theater. Don't just have theater friends. You'll really appreciate it later because, if this is all you eat and drink all day, oh, God, how suffocating, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not very well rounded, I don't think.
No. And then of course you're not going to be able to experience life. And then how can you bring that to the table if you don't have these experiences under your belt? Not saying you have to be method, but just.
Alan Rickman said that historically I've heard that when people
Hmm.
asked him about acting advice, he would say, "Go live."
Go live.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
have a life that you can then bring to the stage because learning how to act is not experiences, and experiences are what you're trying to bring, right?
Hmm. But it also is what makes it unique to you, right? Like we can
Yes.
all like craft a way that is like a scene where you get hurt, but like the way you get particularly hurt is not going to necessarily be the same as everyone else. And so that uniqueness, I feel like, is lost because we're always trying to create something that the others want, right? Whether it's the casting director, whether it's the
Hmm.
audience. Um, but instead just let it inspire you. Just like what does it mean to you? Yeah.
She brought it all the way back. That was impressive.
Yay.
So we're like all the way in, only like 15 minutes left.
Hmm.
But I liked that. It was that I liked that conversation. Um, who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Who
Um,
are you?
Oh God.
I've seen suns when the heat
Welcome
rise up.
to
I've seen
Artists
guns
I
when they shoot
Admire
eyes up.
with Coach
I've
Clark.
seen nuns when they beast rise up. Life snuff, knives rust when they cut through silence. I've seen fun when the weed dries up.
Let's see. I've started to call myself a multi-hyphenate. Started off as an
Multi-hyphenate.
actor. Yeah. So, I did a little acting in high school and I really liked it. And I wasn't sure if it was something that would be feasible because I had to learn that academia is not the same as real life. So this
Yeah.
carried me through college too, but this underdog kind of thing, right? Um, I mean, I went to a high school which was very diverse, but I was the only Asian kid. And
Hmm.
so, with academia, like a lot of the shows they're going to do, they're not going to have you as the focus or you as the lead. You will always be the minority.
Hmm.
And at the time when I grew up, like leads didn't look like me
Hmm.
even if they didn't require like all of those demographics, right? They just didn't look like me. And so I always had the students in my class that were the leads all the time
Hmm.
and they did so great and they had all the opportunities. And then I finally did this one audition in high school. I think I it just clicked. It just clicked one time in my head and apparently it made an impression on my teachers at the time. They're like, "No, yeah, it just came out of nowhere. Like she did such a great job on her monologue." And that was so validating to hear that. And then I was, doing a few plays here and there. Um, not as the lead, but I had one supporting role that meant a lot to me at the time. And so I learned a lot. And then, you do those like theater conferences and like thespian conferences and stuff. And, I got all into that world and I was watching a lot of TV and film too, because that's something that my dad and I really connected over. But yeah, I really started investing in the idea of like maybe I could make this work. And what kind of gave me the green light for that was so you can do like collegiate auditions. You can also prep for that your junior year of high school as a practice round. And then when you go into it in your senior year, you're actually auditioning to all these colleges at this conference. And I got the most callbacks out of the class and it was a really nice feeling and it was like okay shoot like maybe I can do this. Then I went to college and I did not get the leads. I rarely got cast in the main stage productions, but there were so many like student labs that were done at my college, and so that was a great chance for me to still like act, perform, work on script analysis in the
Hmm.
room and rehearsals, and so that I really did try to not take for granted. And also the studio access that we had, right? And so I was like, the plays that this theater department is choosing to do, I don't always have to go for those. In real life, I probably wouldn't even be considered for those, right? So I had to really understand that like in real life after this, I will hopefully be able to find more work, find more characters that I can audition for that fit me better. So
Hmm.
for now, let me try and do as much as I can in the room. Um, so I had a lot of practice, which was really nice. And then what I saw was like a lot of the folks that got the leads all the time, once they graduated, I think the majority of folks don't do this anymore, which is fine,
Hmm.
and they found another avenue or they're, maybe doing it once in a while, but
Hmm.
there's just a very, very select few that have continued. And it's like understanding like, oh, okay, what made it work for them, right? Um, and I think also, our world of theater can also coincide really well with film. And so at the time, like that was booming, especially here in Atlanta. And so I feel like I've been able to really find that niche of work that not only am I able to be considered for because of like not just demographics, but also like the skill set I've been able to refine over the years, but also now I can also go up against things and opportunities that are more open, that don't have specifics like that would
Hmm.
limit me, such as like race and things like that, which has
Hmm.
been really, really, really rewarding, I think. So yeah, it's like I get folks from like high school that I would like catch up with nowadays, and they'll be like, yeah, like who would have thought like little Michelle Pokopac would be out here still doing this? And I'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, I really can't see myself doing anything else. So that's been really cool. You asked me what do I do? Who am I? I'm a multi-hyphenate. I started off in acting because I got really into it. I always wanted to do film though.
Yeah.
I would watch films. My dad and I would love to critique them and go over them. And uh, then because after college, I settled more in Atlanta and there was like the film boom that was happening. It was a nice way to transition into that. And so I took a few classes here and there, but like I mainly just kind of tried to get work as I could. And that's been nice to kind of do both nowadays. I found myself more as a producer, more in the theater side of things. I've co-founded an organization called East by Southeast with a partner of mine, Ami Vyas. And so because of our background, she's also an Indian American actor in town. It's just, we see a lot of the limitations in this town
Mhm.
as Asian artists. And so we challenged the theater community on like finding ways of like making it more diverse and like what are the conversations or what are the obstacles in the way? Is it marketing? Is it because you don't have the talent? Is it because you don't have the following? So all of those things. And we created a network of Asian artists, not just in acting or in theater, but we tried to broaden it to any sort of like arts medium, just to better, connect with each other and also like advocating for like more authentic representation because when you have a lot of these stories been written or being made by those that don't identify, it can get really really snaky. So yeah, so that's part of my advocacy work. 2020, a lot of things went down in Atlanta, so I started getting involved in a lot of social justice groups, and we had like a big like reckoning in town virtually with all the things happening in our theater community involving race and like biases and stuff like that. So I found a way to find art and activism intersect with each other, which has been cool. I've dabbled more in dramaturgy, which if you asked me like 10 years ago, I thought that just meant like bringing in the historical context of a play, but it actually is way more than that. I really love like delving into like the development of it and like, how do you work a play and a playwright through a process
Mm.
of improvement in the layers. It's a breathing thing, right? How do you develop the arcs and the characters and relationships, and how's the momentum on the script and all those things. So that's been something I've been dabbling in. Um, and then yeah, I'm gonna try directing. Uh, so I directed a play a long time ago, but we don't talk about that because that was with a theater that we shall not name. And it was on a piece
Ah,
that was really, really bad. But anyways, that kind of killed my like interest in directing. But I have a friend who is putting a show up at the Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So I'll be working on that. Yeah, I'm so scared, but I'm so excited. I'm excited that he's trusting me because yeah, those pieces are very personal up there.
yes.
They can be.
Isn't that where Fleabag came from?
Yep. Yep, yep, yep. And Neil Patrick Harris is probably going to be drinking beers and catching as many shows too. So
Congratulations. That sounds awesome.
thank you. I'm very excited. So yeah.
Um, when is that? When do you have to like, when is that timeline?
So that's going to be in August. So it runs for about a month usually.
Hmm.
So I'll do as much as I can because I can't leave until basically opening because I got some things here that I need to attend, and then yeah, I'll try and make sure I'm there to support my friend when he puts the show up. And he's done it a couple times as like a producer and other positions, so
Hmm.
it's nice to go with someone who knows how all that works. Um, so I just get to be a director, which is really exciting.
Is it a one-person show?
Yes, yeah,
Sweet.
it'll be a one-person show. And then I'm kind of like helping dramaturg it at the same time. So yeah, that's what I do. But also like I love traveling. I love not uh obsessing about this work that we do sometimes and just like indulge in life a little bit. I got a dog, I got my family and friends. So, yeah, I'm happy to say that I've been able to find a rich life through that. So,
You're very good at what you do, so I'm glad that
thank
you've been
you.
able to do that.
It's
I remember
hard.
when I first saw you in that reading,
Which reading?
the one you did with Rin about the
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. About the OBGYNs and like, yeah, reproductive rights and stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
I met you when we did the Riser Lab pitch.
Oh yeah, that was a
And
long
then
time ago.
you did your Shakespeare, modern Shakespeare
I did.
piece. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
rapped, and a
That's
lot of those
yeah.
people were like, "What's going on?"
They weren't ready. They
They
weren't ready.
weren't ready.
They weren't.
Yeah, I remember seeing that reading, and there was three people that I went, "Who were they?" And you were one of
Hmm.
them.
Thank you.
And there was a British guy in it who I also was like, "Who's he?"
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good. And then there was another. I'm gonna cut this out because I should know her name. She did the reading with us.
Yeah.
Danielle maybe
It's okay.
Daniela. She did the film. You remember the film we just read?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, do you mean I know you're talking about.
Yeah,
Uh
I thought she was good too. It was you three that I remember asking about.
yes, she was Denise, right?
Yes, there we go.
Yes,
Yeah, I knew it
Denise.
was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
D
yeah.
name.
Yeah, Denise.
Um,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
she's so sweet.
yeah, you three. I was like, yeah, that's some good work. It's interesting that you bring up the fact that you were considered an underdog in a school setting, and then many of those people, if not almost all of them, are not doing this work anymore, and you have found a
Yeah.
career in it.
Yeah.
Because
That's
I
weird.
think from my undergrad, from like I was in undergrad for like 5 years, and so like in
Hmm.
that 5 year,
Super senior.
yeah, I took an extra year to like get some other classes in. Um, During that 5 year span of time, all the people that I came into contact with, I think two or three of them are doing work outside of Flint, and one of
Mm.
them is my brother.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, one of them is my best friend. I mean, he's actually not, he's on and off, but he's teaching still.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one person who went equity immediately and did this tour out of Detroit. And then I think they stopped
Mm.
after that.
Yeah.
And then everybody else went different directions. And even in grad school, there was 8 people in my grad class. You know, two of them are acting in theater still.
Yeah.
A lot of them are either producing or maybe working in film or teaching or running a theater, but like it's not necessarily like the acting that we were doing. There was a couple in the class
Mm.
above me that are still working, and I think a couple in the class below me, but
Hmm.
it's wild how few actually stick it out or stick it out in this arena
Very, very
that don't veer
few.
off.
Yeah, very few in my circles. Yeah. And like I used to be so jealous. I used to be so, which is why it's like stark to me to think about it now in
Yeah.
hindsight. It's like I used to want to be them so bad. And like, I used to really like try and figure out like, what is it that works for them that isn't working for me? And like, this isn't fair. And yeah, I used to be so jealous. And I used to, I remember one time there was a conversation that I had about this person in high school, and like, we were all getting our acceptance letters at certain schools, and like at the time, I was given some really helpful advice that was like, at the end of the day, you're essentially learning the same things no matter what school you go to. Yes, certain schools are going to have better resources or better connections, but it is really what you make out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because
Mm-hmm.
I felt a little insecure about like, I don't think I can go to these big performing arts schools. I can't afford it or like,
Mm-hmm.
um and then I had some people that were pretty affluent in my school, and so they got to be able to do it. And I just felt so jealous about it. And I was like, God, I wish I could just be able to do that. Because I didn't even apply to certain places because I knew I couldn't afford it. Um, and
Yep.
people go to these big performing arts schools and stuff, and like it's still the same thing, you know?
Acting is
They
acting.
acting is acting, and a lot of them don't continue it. And it's like
I've worked
I
with
really
Yale.
thought y'all were gonna go and make it all the way through. Yeah.
I've worked with people from Yale and Juilliard and NYU, and some I'm like,
Oh
oh yeah, you're
yeah.
trash too. Like, some of you are amazing, but some of you are trash. Like the school did not dictate
They took your money.
skill. Yeah, I mean, you didn't, not that they couldn't have helped you, but you didn't get out of it what you needed. Like again, you're talking about
Yes.
like you get out what you put in, and I think it doesn't matter where you go. There are amazing people who graduate from every program because of what they put in, and there are
Hmm.
trash people who graduate from every program because of what they put in.
Hmm.
Um,
They don't let it change them or they don't let it challenge them. They take it for granted, right? So
mhm.
then when they go out into the real world, it's like they flounder because it's like, oh, I'm not used to this. And it's like,
Taking a
yeah,
lead over your own growth.
you have to like go out and do it yourself this time. Yeah.
Yeah, ownership, and that it's the difference for me in grad school versus undergrad. Undergrad, I was being led.
Mm,
In grad school, I took ownership over like my own growth,
sure.
and I was like, I'm here to get better because I can't work. So
Mm,
I like started taking things of like I need this, I need to work, I want extra time. I'm gonna go to teachers, I'm gonna ask them questions, I'm gonna, make sure that I get my money's worth. Um, it's also I remember I love Philip Seymour Hoffman in Rest in Peace in Charlie Wilson's War.
okay.
The performance in it's great, and he tells the story, and I don't know where it's from, and I'm probably going to butcher the actual story, but he tells the story to Tom Hanks of like he was like, um, there was a Zen master in this town, and there was a boy, and his parents bought him a horse, and he'd wanted a horse his whole life, and everybody in the village went, "Oh, that's incredible! Look at that!" And he went, "We'll see." And then a few weeks later, the boy's riding the horse, and he falls off and he breaks his leg, and everybody in the town goes, "Oh, that's terrible!" And the Zen master says, "We'll see." And then later on, there's a war, and the boy can't go because his leg is broken. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's amazing!" And the Zen master goes, "We'll see." And I love that in speaking
Mm,
about like I wanted to be them so bad. It's like, yeah, there's so many times in your life where you're like, "Ah, I wish I could have that." And it's like, yeah, but if you take a second back and you go, we'll see. Like usually the universe has something else planned for you, or there's a different route. Like there's so many shows I wish I could. I mean, even to take back to acting, there's so many shows I was like, man, I want to book this. And I was so upset when I didn't. And if I'd have just
mhm.
taken a step back, like, yeah, we'll see. A lot of those shows I either didn't want to be in, or something else came along, or something going
Yes.
on in my life meant that it wouldn't have been. Like I
Yes.
remember Tale of Two Cities at Alliance, I really, really wanted to be in.
Yeah.
And I didn't book it, and my daughter came a month early, like
Mm,
right in the middle of their run. It was like you would have
wow.
been trying to do this run while in
I'm
the hospital. Like,
I'm glad that you're bringing this up too, because it's like this. I it's gonna sound hippy dippy, right? But like I really try and pay attention more to the universe and the energies around me.
mhm.
I'm not really religious. I grew up Catholic, but I kind of fell out of that, and then I've become a little bit more like I guess spiritual, whatever. Maybe taking mushrooms have changed that. I don't know, but like I, but I've also like really tried to pay attention to like when the universe is trying to tell me something
Mhm.
because I used to be so obsessed with like, oh, why didn't I get that? Like, taking all the no's so personally. But then when I learned that like, oh, these windows and doors are opening and closing for a reason, that it would have prevented me from doing this or that, whatever. And also with life, that balance, right? So I've had to learn the hard way that like, and I think a lot of us have had to make those sacrifices of like, oh, I can't because I have a show. Oh, I can't because I have rehearsal. And so I'm missing these once in a lifetime things
Mhm.
because of a show. And then I had
Mhm.
to realize, Michelle, it's just a show.
Mhm.
It's just theater. I love it, but it's just theater.
Yeah, it's just a job.
Yeah.
There's definitely and I'm glad this is changing, and I have some issues with the younger generation's idea of training, and that's okay. I could talk about that at a different
What is
episode.
that? Okay. Yeah.
Discomfort versus safety. Being
Interesting.
uncomfortable is not being unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you're going to do good drama, you have to be uncomfortable. And when somebody challenges you or
Oh.
pushes your edges to make you uncomfortable, you can't cop out because you're stunting your own growth. And if you try to dictate how you should learn, a lot of the times you're in trouble because you don't have it. So there's like
Oh.
that edge, right? There's that side of it. However, there's the other side of it where, and this is kind of what it was like when I was training, and it started to change after I kind of got older, which was you never take a sick, you never call out. You're here
Mm.
sick, right?
Mm.
You make it work. You don't need an
Yeah.
intimacy choreographer. You sacrifice everything. You go to deep, dark places to make sure that it's true. Like all these like toxic ideas that still
Yeah.
kind of are around to some degree in theaters where it's like only after the pandemic did I think actors start feeling comfortable about calling out so their understudy could go on
Mm-hmm.
without feeling they were going to get fired or that it was going to reflect poorly on their
Mm.
career. And I think some people at certain theaters still feel that way. But at least for me, it started
Interesting.
to shift a little bit because it was like, oh, we're worried now that if you come in, you'll take down the show. So we're fine with you staying out. That was not the case before the pandemic happened.
Mm.
It really shifted a lot of theater's protocol about that. And I think that protocol started to shift the way that we thought about it. And we started to realize, like, oh, the show's fine. Like, yes, maybe you're a better actor. Yes, maybe the show suffers a little bit, but it's going to be fine. You
Mm-hmm.
being out, being sick is actually better for the whole cast because you come back healthy.
Yes. Yes.
And that kind of like, fear was toxic and it's not helpful. And that idea that you have, it was brainwashed into you via fear. And I'm sorry that you still believe that it's a
Sure.
chip on your shoulder, that it's some kind of like thing to be proud of,
No, that's
but it's
real.
not.
Yeah, we're so conditioned to bend over backwards to be able
Yeah.
to make the show work. And it's
I'll be
like,
here because it's the show. It's like that is a thing that theaters and training told you so that they could use you. That was never a thing that was for your benefit or the
so you
show's.
could get paid peanuts.
And
Yeah.
so that, it's the same thing that happens when like work and friends come into, because like you work in a theater for a very long
Mm-hmm.
time, you get to know the artistic director, you start to be friends, and now they're starting to ask you to work off the clock.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, no. Like the distinction between business and family, right? Business and friendship is very dangerous because then
Totally.
you start to feel like, well, this theater is a family. It's like, no, it's not. It's a company and this is a job. And the
And
second
just
you start treating it
learning.
like that, it's dangerous.
Yes, and just learning how to advocate for yourself. I think as artists, because we are inherently in a vulnerable way of working,
Hmm.
um, you know, it sucks because like, so I recently had to go through this production, this situation where I was also dealing with a lot of like new folks.
Hmm.
So this was like their first big production of this, or like they've never worked at this place before. And unfortunately, there's a lot of toxic things that were just constantly in practice, and like it just wasn't going to change, right? So it's like, how do you deal with that? And also, how do you
Hmm.
tolerate it? And should you tolerate it? But there was a moment where I had to help folks, and I stepped in as that kind of like aid, as that support for that. But I had to really help folks find the language for it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you bring up this thing too with like the younger generation that you're seeing, at least in your classes, of like how it's almost too preemptive or too like precautious of like,
Mhm.
the safety words and are
Pendulum
stopping
swings too
us.
far.
Yeah, yeah. So of course there are things that we can improve on. And of course there are things that we can like get rid of and that
Always.
were toxic practices. But yeah, just learning your worth,
Hmm.
learning when you have a choice, and like how do you clearly communicate that in the room?
Yeah.
That's also something that I feel like, as like actors, for example, I feel like we learn the technique. We learn the technique. We learn how to like be vulnerable, take the walls down, learn how to, funnel it in this way and that. But we don't learn the practicalities of the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And like we fear, we don't want to be that person. We don't want to be the difficult person, but there's some times where you do need to be able to say that and maybe that costs you.
Yeah. It's always feels like a risk. And I know that's tough because we're always fighting for jobs.
But it's your body and it's your mental health on that stage.
And it's other people coming after you. It's everybody else in the room. And again, like I will say that I'm a white male. So
Mm.
all these things that I'm
You are?
saying, I am. I don't know if you knew.
Oh,
white and male, but cis even. But
Whew.
like, but it puts me in a certain perspective where it may be easier for me to say these things than certain people,
Hmm.
especially in certain rooms. It's like, yeah, I might not have the kickback that somebody else does because the privileges that come with it. But
Sure.
it still stands on ground of like when you don't stand up in those situations, the other people in the room see that and that is continued and or it's going to happen again. Like the
Yeah.
more that you stand up, the less it happens afterwards. So you're not only protecting that moment or that person, you're also protecting the people behind you, or you're setting a precedent at least in that moment that possibly can be carried on, and or you're giving somebody else in the room courage that they can do it then when it happens to them.
Hmm.
um and so I think it is, and it does always have to, the language I think is very important because you don't want to aggressively do it because then you turn
Hmm.
into the problem. You have to do
Hmm.
it in a professional way, but I do think it is important, and that is a thing that I am very happy that the younger generation is kind of moving forward with and
I think they
focusing
have the
on.
arsenal now. They have the language because it's becoming more normalized now. But I think
Yeah,
sometimes I've seen situations where it is overused, or it is yeah, it's
yeah,
not to their benefit, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird
But
balance.
when you've been abused so long, the pendulum's going to swing that way to begin with, and then hopefully it balances out afterward. But you can only, it makes
Also, who judges
sense.
that, Like there's no like referee to be
Yeah.
able to tell you what's right or wrong for that. You just kind of have to figure it out. I mean, there's a union, I guess, but like only that can go so far.
Thank you for the time. This was a lovely
Yeah.
conversation. I love
I'm
talking
glad we
to
could
you.
do this. You too. You too.
All
You
right.
have a restful break, and I will catch you next time.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
I've seen suns when the heat dries up.